Happy Thanksgiving, Dog Pound. Everybody's going to be celebrating Thanksgiving, watching the games on TV, no doubt, and getting ready for Sunday's game against the Denver Broncos, the evil villains from out west. And if you're old enough to remember the championship games for the AFC that the Browns participated in the 1980s, you know that they were really quite the rival of the Cleveland Browns and prevented the Browns from going to the Super Bowl not one, not two, but three times. And they were really, really our arch rival. John Elway, his public enemy number one in my book, with the greatest of respect, John, I hate you. I, John Elway was the greatest quarterback of that generation in my book. He was just phenomenal. And the Cleveland Browns were just an outstanding team. That was our best team, really, in the 1980s that had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And, the Denver Broncos, unfortunately, were just a little bit better. And they actually went, and that hurt a lot. So I have nothing but hatred in my heart for the Denver Broncos. I mean, not really hate, but you know what I mean. Sports hatred. It's a special game whenever we play the Denver Broncos, and it's coming up. Now, if you haven't been paying attention lately, when last we saw the Denver Broncos, they were absolutely getting their butt kicked by the Miami Dolphins by the score of 70-20 earlier this year. They also were getting into it with the New York Jets for absolutely no reason, but Sean Payton decided that they had to pick a fight with the offensive coordinator for the Jets because he was the fired head coach of the Denver Broncos from last year, and Sean Payton decided that he had to get into it, Aaron Rodgers' friend, and so for absolutely no reason he decided to pick a fight with the New York Jets, and they lost to the New York Jets. That's really horrible. And so they got beat by 50 points by Miami, and then they lost to the New York Jets and Zach Wilson. Man, that's a bad team, right? Well, somehow that team is now 5-5. That's right, they're at 500. So they've gotten a lot better for reasons that are not totally understandable by modern science. They are actually favored by 2.5 points. It was, I think I saw a line of 1 point right after the game on Sunday. Then it went to 1.5, and now it's 2.5 points. So there's been a lot of money coming in on Denver. They are favored for this game. And I'd like to come to some kind of understanding about why that's so. How can this crazy team from out west, this upstart team, one of the old teams from the American Football League, how did they manage to become favorites against our Cleveland Browns? I think that requires a little bit of analysis, and I did bring a PowerPoint file with me, of course, and I'd like to go take a little bit of time to analyze that. But first, before I do that, in this time of Thanksgiving, I want to say a few words about the Cleveland Browns charities. And if you'll go to the Cleveland Browns website, they have a whole list of charities that you can support either with your time or with your hard-earned dollars. It doesn't have to be cash. If you don't have any money, you can still go donate time. And it's called Be the Solution. And you will recall that this was something that was set up by the Browns in response to some of the social crises that we had, where there was all this controversy about whether you were going to support the national anthem or whether you're going to take a knee, and whether or not this was going to be perceived as a slight to the veterans of the United States of America. And the football players were trying to say that, well, we want to protest against America, but we don't want to protest against the flag when we protest against the flag. And we don't want to offend the veterans when we protest against the flag. And that stance was difficult to defend, let's put it that way. I think that the football players were sincere that they wanted to support the veterans, and they somehow missed the connection between the American flag and, and the veterans. Many of our, by the way, I am a veteran, and I understood that many of my fellow vets died for that flag, and that they had very strong feelings about it. I myself think I understand what they were trying to accomplish, and they were trying to interject some awareness about police conditions, which is not a national institution at all, but local police conditions at different points in the United States where police order had broken down, and they picked kind of an oddball way to do it. Unfortunately, the NFL was not representing the police department in these local communities, and the national government has nothing to do with the local police. But anyway, they wanted to draw attention. That was what they wanted to do. They wanted to use their platform as celebrity to draw attention to a serious problem. And anyway, so the Cleveland Browns and Andrew Berry decided that, well, what we can do, maybe that's more constructive, is we can set up a relationship between our team, the Cleveland Browns, and various charity organizations that are active in the community, that do things that are related to social justice and economic reform, and that are active in the community to set up active organizations that combat the issues that we're concerned about. So they support local businesses, they support education, they support development in the inner cities, in the community in Cleveland and other cities in the state of Ohio. And you can go on the website at clevelandbrowns.com and look up Be the Solution. And so you can do some good in the community, and I encourage everybody to do that. So it has nothing to do with protesting. It has to do with acting in the community. That's what the Cleveland Browns have been about since 1946, is not just complaining, but actually doing something about conditions in the local community in Cleveland, Ohio, and in Cuyahoga County, and indeed around the state. Remember that for a long time, Cleveland was the only professional football team in the state of Ohio. And there are things that the Cleveland Browns have worked towards to actually improve. Later, Jim Brown was one of the principals to bring forward organizations that develop businesses in impoverished areas in greater Cleveland, and that has continued in one form or fashion to the modern day. And Andrew, much to his credit, has interjected some additional support. So I think it's appropriate to recognize that at this Thanksgiving time, not wait for a crisis before giving it attention, but holidays such as Thanksgiving, we have much to be thankful for in our community, and to share these types of blessings with others in our community that are perhaps not as fortunate, or that can benefit from working together with others in the community that have a desire to give back. So with that, I'm going to pause and add an opportunity for others that support this show, as well as many others in the Fanatical Elves Network, to make a little money to keep us on the air. So I'll pause now for a commercial break. Okay, so back now, and I want to talk some more about the Denver Broncos, and let me share present, share screen, and here we go. There we are. Okay, so for those who are listening without the benefit of video, I'm presenting some graphics of the X's and O's of the Browns versus the Denver team. I've got the Bronco offense on the bottom, Cleveland Browns defense on top. And, again, the Browns have a league-leading defense. They're number one in total defense again after the Ravens were on top for a while. And, the Broncos look pretty good all of a sudden. Remember, however, that they've been playing a last-place schedule, and so, it's not that fantastic of achievement. But the other thing that's very important is that they've avoided major injuries on that team for whatever reason. Part of it, I think, is because they're a young team and they don't get injured that much. So, good for them. They've been pretty tough, but they're going up against a very, very difficult opponent in the Cleveland Browns defense. What I really wanted to talk about, though, was on the offensive side of the ball. And if you were to look at the X's and O's for the Cleveland's offense versus the Denver defense, we've got some strength up the middle with Joel Bitonio, Ethan Posick, the center, and Wyatt Teller, the right guard. And they've got some weakness up the middle. And so it kind of looks like, you could probably just run right up the middle, turn right when you hit the linebackers, and keep on going. I think it's a good opportunity to maybe use the fullback, Nick Harris, and help block for Jerome Ford, who's really been coming on in the past few weeks. We had some criticism, we meaning me, Joel Cade, and some of the others on the Fanatical L's network. Jerome was kind of slowing down when he went to the line of scrimmage like you might do in college to decide whether to reverse your field or not. That just doesn't work in the NFL, but he's been really doing a lot better in recent weeks, and he's been gaining yards. There's no question about that. The Browns are a top 5 rushing team despite the fact that they lost their top dog, Nick Chubb, for the season. And they've been using 2 and 3 tight end formations. They've been using Harris as a second or third tight end, and using him also as a fullback. And I think, this looks like an opportunity to run right up the middle with Harris as a fullback and Ford or Kareem Hunt as the ball carrier. And it looks to me like, Denver might be kind of weak in that way. And you want to take a guess at who the worst team is statistically against the run in the NFL? And if you guess it was the Denver Broncos, you would guess correctly. And so I don't know that this is a really good matchup for the Denver Broncos. They are the weakest team against the run in the NFL, and the Browns are not really that interested in passing the ball. They are starting the rookie, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I believe that is the correct move. But recall that DTR is a running quarterback. He is not that experienced at reading NFL defenses, and there's a standard criticism that smart analysts like to say that, in the NFL you can't do one read and run. Well, that's true in the long run, but in the short run you actually really can. And I think that there are a lot of plays in which Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to take off and make yardage by running the ball. His number one receiver is still going to be Amari Cooper, who's doing absolutely phenomenally well. I believe he's playing at a Pro Bowl level, although he's often double covered and he's not going to get the same kind of yards that other wide receivers are going to get around the league. Elijah Moore is also doing a very good job in the slot, although he too is not going to get the big yardage that other receivers might get because he gets a lot of attention from the defense. The Browns have not been getting great yardage from the other side. Donovan Peoples-Jones for the first half of the season, and now Cedric Tillman. There just are not very many targets going that way. There were very few targets for Donovan Peoples-Jones, And now that Cedric Tillman has taken over, there just are not very many targets even now. So I don't know if it was Peoples-Jones' fault actually, but there just not being very many targets. So I look for two tight end formations to be used, but really where the Broncos seem to be the weakest is right up the middle. So I think, well, that seems like a perfect invitation to use a fullback. And so excuse me, I think Nick Harris could be used in maybe 25% of the offensive snaps, maybe more than that. And, I started to think about that in preparation for today's show. I've been critical about the Browns all year long about not filling out the running back room. And that was true at the beginning of the year. But now, maybe it's true that there really are 4 running backs. At the beginning of the year, it was only Chubb and Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford was, pretty raw as a runner at that point. Now he's developed into an NFL running back, so we're happy with Jerome. They also reacquired Kareem Hunt. I was skeptical about that at first, but Kareem has lost some weight from last year, regained some quickness, and he's actually performing more like the Kareem Hunt that we saw 2 and 3 years ago, and less like the guy we saw last year. So that also worked out very, very well. The comeback of the year is probably Kareem Hunt. We also picked up a guy in Pierre Strong that has obvious ability. Now, Pierre has not been physically quite right for several weeks because of a hamstring injury. It's not bad enough to get him on IR, but he's not been able to play regularly or consistently, I should say. But nevertheless, he is a third running back. But then there's Nick Harris, who people continue to list as a backup center, but he's playing up to 25% of the snaps, either as a tight end or as a fullback. And so really, he's the number 4 running back. And I think he's very valuable in that capacity. And he satisfies the bill. He's a blocking back, not a runner, not a pass catcher, but he's opening up holes for Jerome and for Kareem, and that's good enough. That's good enough to justify his spot on the roster. He's doing a great job, and the Cleveland Browns really do have 4 contributors in the running back room. So somehow or another they managed to put together that room on the fly, but right now it looks pretty solid. And I don't know that the Denver Broncos are equipped to stop the Browns with their last place run defense. That's not a good matchup for them. The thing that's in their advantage is that they have very few injuries of any consequence on that team. So I think it's a very interesting matchup. I do believe, by the way, in the altitude. Anybody who's gone jogging at 5,000 feet, if you go visit Denver or any other place that's 5,000 feet or higher in elevation, get off the plane, check in at your hotel, and then go jogging, you will find that the 5,000 foot elevation is real and that your body is not equipped to supply oxygen to your muscles in the same way that it is at sea level. So I think that the home field advantage in Denver is a real thing. It's not made up. And I haven't been able to find statistics on how much the home field elevation is actually, home field advantage is actually worth. But it would not shock me to find out that it might be worth as much as 4 points rather than the usual 2.5 to 3. It used to be a cliche that it was worth 3 points, although some of the stat boys now are saying that they think that is lower than 3. Nevertheless, it's a real thing, and I think Denver might have as much as 4 points home field advantage. And so I think that the point spread that's being calculated by the gambling community of 2.5 points for Denver might be a little bit high, but I don't think that it's completely nuts given the fact that it's home at Denver. The main concern that I have for that point spread is that you're sending up the last place rushing defense against a team that really wants to run the football. Now, a lot depends on how much faith you have in a rookie quarterback, but as I've pointed out, as many of my other fellow broadcasters from the Fanatical Elvis Network have also pointed out, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a well-prepared quarterback with 5 years of major college football. This is not Trey Lance, who just showed up with a few games of experience at an intermediate college level and he can run real fast and stuff like that. No. This is a guy that's very solid, that maybe does not have the combine numbers that make scouts drool, but he does have experience at running an offense, and that he has experience also in a running style of offense. Remember that he played at UCLA, where they have sort of a air raid style offense, and he can carry out a lot of the same plays that Deshaun Watson carries out, where he is very, very mobile, can gain yardage for you on the ground, can throw on the run. And I think that we'll see those kinds of plays being called for him. I don't expect to see him throwing the ball 40 yards downfield every other play. I don't think that's what the Browns are going to be about this season, especially in the early going with a rookie quarterback. I think they'll try to do short passes, passes to running backs, passes behind the line of scrimmage, and we'll just see how that goes. So, anyway, I think that it is a mismatch against Denver. They do not match up well against the Cleveland Browns. But on the other hand, I do see two very significant advantages for Denver. I see that they have the home field advantage, and they also have a very real advantage in health. They don't have anybody of major consequence that's on the injured reserve. And for that reason, I think that the point spread is kind of reasonable. I think I might lean a tick or two towards the Browns. I think 2.5 might be a bit much. I might be willing to, I think it's probably about 2 points high. I think it's going to be a very close game, just like we've had in the past. I don't think it'll be as low scoring as last week's game. I think that the Browns are going to be able to move the ball against Denver. And Denver might have some success against the Browns, especially with the safety out, having a rookie playing safety, and all the other injuries that the Browns have had recently were not quite as formidable as we were at the beginning of the season. So I think it's anybody's ball game, and I think it could be a little bit more offensive than what we've been seeing in recent games. So anyway, that's what I think could happen. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll watch some football in preparation for Sunday. It should be a really great weekend. And oh yeah, there's going to be college football galore this weekend. So try not to overdose. Remember to take some time with your families. Don't leave out the family in favor of football. Give up a game or two in order to be with your families, and we'll see you next time. Take care, and God bless. Bye for now.